Crown of Dreams, a new and unpredictable story. Chapter 1. Crown of Dreams. Chapter 1. The girl who bloomed late, Lila Hart, had spent her whole life feeling invisible, until the day magic chose her, and a single golden daisy revealed she was destined for more than just arranging bouquets in a sleepy seaside town. Step into a world where beauty is magic and self-worth is the ultimate prize. Crown of Dream is the sparkling fantasy romance about Lila Hart, a small-town florist who discovers her ordinary hands can make flowers bloom in impossible ways. When she's thrust into the cutthroat gilded crown competition, a glamorous pageant where enchanted gowns and vicious rivals collide, Lila must learn that real magic isn't in the glittering crown, but in the courage to embrace her own thorns. With a disgraced stylist as her unlikely mentor and a dangerous attraction growing between them, this uplifting tale blends the selection's romance with modern and relatable fashionable wit, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones who bloom late. The first time Lila Hart saw magic, she was 6 years old and nose to screen with the family's battered television. Miss Solaris had just been crowned winner of the Gilded Crown Society's annual pageant, her tears glimmering like liquid diamonds as the camera zoomed in. "Mama, look. Her tears are glowing." Lila had gasped, pudgy fingers leaving smudges on the screen. Her mother had sighed, wiping floral print apron hands on an equally floral apron before clicking off the set. "That's glamour blessing, darling. Not for the likes of us." 14 years later, Lila stood ankle-deep in peonies behind Hart and Thorn Florist, that memory surfacing as she wrestled a runaway vine of clematis into submission. The morning sun painted the coastal town of Seabrook in honeyed light, glinting off the bell above the shop door as it jingled. "Lila, those lilies won't deliver themselves." Her mother's voice carried through the open window, equal parts fond and exhausted. "Maybe if they did, you'd finally take a day off," Lila called back, grinning as she tucked a rebellious honey-blonde curl behind her ear. The motion sent a shower of pollen floating through the air, catching the light like fairy dust. Inside, she found her mother frowning at the Gilded Crown Gazette someone had left on the counter. The headline screamed, "Vivian Laurent favored Tio win Golden Crown again." Below it, a photograph showed a willowy brunette with a smile like a honed blade, mid-curtsy in a gown that probably cost more than Seabrook's entire pier. Lila traced the photo with a pollen-stained finger. "Think they'd notice if I entered?" She joked, plucking a daisy from the nearest arrangement and tucking it behind her ear. Her mother snorted, sliding the newspaper into the trash. "Only if you tripped on the runway, darling." The bell jingled again as Mrs. Pembroke bustled in for her weekly lilies, and Lila forgot about beauty queens and golden crowns. At least until sunset. The harbor was Lila's favorite place to dream. As evening painted the sky in watercolor strokes of pink and gold, she sat on the weathered boards of the dock, sketchbook open in her lap. Pencil flew across the paper, capturing the silhouette of a gown inspired by the waves, silken folds like rolling surf, beating like seafoam catching light. "Your lines are all wrong." The voice came from directly above her, deep and rough around the edges like whiskey left too long in the glass. Lila startled, pencil skidding across the page as she looked up and up, into a pair of hazel eyes that seemed to contain their own storm. The man standing over her looked like he'd stepped out of one of her fashion magazines, if the models in those magazines had scars cutting through their left brow and wore their expensive blazers like they couldn't be bothered to care about them. "Excuse me," Lila managed, clutching her ruined sketch to her chest. "The neckline." He plucked the pencil from her grip with surprising gentleness, flipping to a fresh page. His hands moved with quick, sure strokes, redrawing the bodice with architectural precision. "You've got vision, but no structure. Like a rose without thorns." Lila opened her mouth, closed it, then settled on, "Who are you?" The corner of his mouth quirked. "Julian Devereux." When she continued staring blankly, he added, "And you're the girl who sent Lady Ashford sneezing with accidental ragweed last spring." Heat flooded Lila's cheeks. "That was an honest mistake." "Of course it was," Julian said, voice dripping with amusement. He handed back the sketchbook, and Lila's breath caught. Her design had been transformed, the same dreamy essence, but with a backbone of precision that made it look like it could walk right off the page. "Why approach me?" she asked, tracing the new lines with reverent fingers. Julian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out and flicked the daisy still tucked behind her ear. The petals shivered, then impossibly deepened from white to gold. "Because," he said softly, "you're the only person in 100 miles whose daydreams smell like gardenias." Then the world exploded in silver light. Lila gasped as something streaked across the darkening sky, a shooting star, she thought wildly, until it curved sharply downward, heading straight for them. Julian yanked her behind him as the object, an envelope, slammed into the dock between them, quivering like a living thing. The parchment burned with icy heat as Lila reached for it, unfurling in her hands to reveal elegant script that seemed to dance before her eyes. "Lila Hart, you are summoned to the Gilded Crown Trials. Departure, tonight. Bring your defiance." Her hands trembled. This had to be a joke. A prank. Seabrook girls delivered flowers and daydreamed about delivering flowers somewhere more exciting. But when she looked up, Julian's expression had gone feral. "Well, little florist," he murmured, offering his hand. "Ready to wreck some glittering egos?" The air left Lila's lungs in a rush. This was madness. She should say no. She should. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Not for the likes of us." Lila took Julian's hand. Heart and Thorn Florist had never seen such chaos. Julian's transportation turned out to be a sleek airship currently hovering over the rooftop, sending petals from the window boxes swirling in frantic eddies. "You'll lose," her mother shouted over the roar of the engines, clutching Lila's face between work-rough hands. "Those girls are wolves in couture." Lila hugged her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of soil and lavender. "Then I'll be the thorn no one expects," she whispered. As the airship's ladder unfurled, Julian tossed her a bundle, unwrapping to reveal a dress that seemed spun from living petals, shifting colors like the ocean at dawn. "Wear this," he ordered. "And Lila." His gaze burned into hers. "Don't ever let them see you down." The ascent stole Lila's breath. Seabrook shrank below them, the only home she'd ever known reduced to twinkling lights against the dark coastline. Ahead, growing larger with every heartbeat, floated the Gilded Crown's legendary palace, a constellation of crystal spires and cascading champagne fountains, glowing against the night sky. "Welcome," Julian murmured, "to the Lion's Den." They touched down on a landing platform bustling with staff in silver uniforms. Lila barely had time to register the dizzying sense of exotic perfumes before a voice like shattering icicles cut through the noise. "Ugh. Stowaways now." Vivian Lauron blocked the gangplank, her gown literally woven with starlight. Threads of it catching in her dark hair at her wrists, tracing the sharp lines of her collarbones. Her gaze raked over Lila's floral dress with palpable disdain. "Cute. If you're auditioning for peasant chic." Laughter tittered through the gathered contestants. Lila's pulse roared in her ears, palms going slick, until Julian's whisper ghosted over her shoulder. "Breathe. And walk." She stepped forward, and the petals of her dress bloomed. Gasps erupted as the living fabric unfurled around her, colors deepening and shifting until she stood wrapped in a masterpiece of nature and magic. Even Vivian's sneer faltered. Madame Soline appeared as if summoned, her silver gown whispering across the marble floor. "Lila Hart," she murmured, taking Lila's chin in cold fingers. "How unexpected." Her dark eyes flicked to Julian. "You always did have a taste for wild cards, Devereux." Then she clapped her hands. "First trial begins now. Follow me." The hall of mirrors stretched endlessly, reflections upon reflections warping in the flickering candlelight. "Find your true reflection," Madame Soline instructed, "and you may proceed." Lila approached the nearest mirror. Her reflection stared back, but older, regal, and crowned in gold. The next showed her broken and weeping. Another faded to near transparency. Panic clawed up her throat. What was the trick? What did they want? Then she caught Julian's eye across the room. He shook his head minutely. don't play their game. Lila exhaled, closed her eyes. When she opened them, she looked straight into the mirror and laughed. They're all me, even the messy parts. The glass shattered. From the shards bloomed a single rose, petals the color of Lila's freckles. Silence gripped the room. Then, well, Julian murmured, catching the rose before it could fall. His fingers brushed hers as he handed it over, eyes dark with something like awe. Aren't you full of surprises? Madame Soline's smile didn't reach her eyes. Indeed. Welcome to the Gilded Crown Society, Miss Hart. Let us see how long you last. As the other contestants shot her venomous looks, Lila tucked the rose behind her ear right where the daisy had been. She wasn't invisible anymore. Like a rose unfurling in midnight's hush, Crown of Dreams blossoms into a radiant tale of magic, self-discovery, and the intoxicating power of daring to shine. When small-town florist Lila Hart, whose touch makes flowers whisper secrets, is swept into the Gilded Crown's glittering gauntlet of enchanted ball gowns and razor-sharp smiles, she'll learn that the most dangerous magic isn't in the spells woven into hemlines, but in the quiet revolution of a woman recognizing her own worth. With a rebellious mentor whose gaze burns hotter than any spotlight and rivals who'd kill to see her fail, this is Cinderella meets Project Runway with a sprinkle of stardust, a story that proves the sweetest victories bloom from the scars we try to hide. End of Chapter 1. Copyright 2025, Argent Park for AM, all rights reserved. DeviantArt.com and Canva.com provided the art videography. Hello, I'm Argent Park in collaboration with Althea's Substack. I'm currently working almost daily to bring about some new, amazing, unique stories and informative articles. Did you enjoy reading this brand new story? If so, please like it and click the follow and subscribe buttons at the top of this page. Do that, and these stories, all expertly researched and thoroughly edited, will start popping up in your feed. Find out more about us or subscribe to our regular highlights. Thanks for visiting and reading. Supporting this writing would be very much appreciated to help reach more readers and writers worldwide.